بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وقدوتنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Welcome Wednesday evening to Beginning Classical Arabic. Today, inshallah, we will seek to finish the chapter that we've been working on for a bit and proceed to the next chapter and a new and exciting lesson and concept. So, without further ado, let's go to the book. We had finished this exercise last time, and now we're moving on to a, sort of a reflection, and we can make it into a reading exercise. تأمل الأمثلة الآتية, right? It says, read the following and keep in mind the rule pertaining to nouns ending with a. Okay? So all of this is trying to cover something or introduce you to something which I have already taken liberty to introduce you to, which is that certain words, certain nouns, and certain verbs are mabni. They are undeclinable, unchangeable at their endings. Okay? So what we have here, and we don't really need to read it, it's sufficient just to all read it together. We have al-baytu, the house. Okay? And what they're showing you here is how it is mu'rab. It is declinable. The ending changes according to its grammatical position. We have al-baytu, which could be mubtada, it could be khabar, it could be fa'il. Okay, if it were a jumla fi'liya, it could be the doer of a verb, depending on, yes, it could be. Not all verbs require an object. We'll get into that more as we get into verbs. But you see here that it has a dhamma. And you see here that that dhamma is going to change to reflect changes in the grammatical case. So nominative case, for the grammar nerds out there, is with dhamma. And then in various genitive positions, it's going to have a kasra. Fil bayti, min al bayti, ila al bayti. And we can say, you can use the genitive case to say in the house, from the house, to the house. And that's pretty much what we're working with at this point as far as prepositions, in order to say lots of different exciting things. But there are other words that are mabni. They are indeclinable. They do not change their endings. And they don't change their endings for phonetic reasons, usually. So this word right here, al-mustashfa, yes, it is the word for hospital. And again, for my those who are interested, I can't talk and spell at the same time, I've learned. For those of you who are interested in the morphological aspect of this word here. Okay, who wants to take a crack at it? What's the three-letter root? What's the three-letter root of this word, mustashfa? Shifa. Very good. Okay, so we have sheen, fa, and alif, or harf illa, right? Okay. From this three-letter root, that's a very poor fa. Sorry about that. From this three-letter root, okay, if we put it on a certain, there's a morphological pattern, which we'll get into later. Form, 10. They usually, in English, they represent it by Roman numerals, which adds ist before something. Okay? It's all going to make sense in just a second, I promise. And this prefix for this morphological form means to seek. So all of a sudden, let's bring an example that's closer to home without a weak letter in it. If we know that Ghain, aywa, that's exactly where I'm going. Ghain, fa, ra has to do with forgiveness. Ghafara means to forgive. Allah is al-Ghaffar, the intense forgiver. He is the Ghafoor, the always forgiving. He is the Ghafir, which is simply the forgiver, right? On the pattern of fa'il. Okay? Right? If you take this and put it on this pattern, instead of ghafara, you get istaghfara, which means to not forgive, but to seek forgiveness. Huh? This is very advanced stuff. Don't worry about it. If it's way over your head, it will come back again. Istaghfara is a verb, past tense verb, that means to seek forgiveness. And we get the gerund from that, istighfar. Okay? So if we go back to our, let me erase all this. If we go back to the root in question here, which is sheen, fa, alif, from which we derive Allah's word, ash-shafi, the healer, okay? Istashfa is to seek health, or to seek healing. And the place where that happens is the mustashfa, which is the hospital. The place of where you seek healing, or the place where you seek health. Okay, so that's a little taste of what's to come. As for our purposes right now, that's not what they're trying to teach you at all. That's fairly advanced stuff. What they're trying to teach you is that if the final letter of a noun is an alif of either type, this is called maqsoor, which means basically literally laying down. And this is called mamdood, which means literally standing up. But they're both alifs. They're just written slightly different ways. Are these types of words going to change depending, or I should say, are they going to change to reflect the change in grammatical case? No, they will not. So we have al-mustashfa, that's marfu', that's in the nominative case. Fil mustashfa, in the genitive case. Min al-mustashfa, ila al-mustashfa. It does not change. It is fixed. It is mebni, which literally means built, from bana, which is like bunyan, like a building. So mebni is something that's built, it's solid, it's unshakable, it's not going to move, it's not going to change. And the same with other names. Someone had asked the question, why, for example, is it that al-yabani is al-yabanu al-yabani? Or I should say al-yabanu min al-yabani, and not America, and not Almania. Well, this is it. It's because of the alif. The alif is fixed. It is mabni, and it will not change. America, the country, this is marfu'. Fi America, in America, still the same, genitive case. Min America, ila America. And the same with Almania, Almania, which is nominative, marfu'. في ألمانيا من ألمانيا إلى ألمانيا. Does anybody have any questions about this particular point? Yes. Anyone have any questions?
Yes. So mustashfa that you're saying, is this yay or ya, or is it alif?
This is alif. This is alif. It's called an alif. We have, let me erase this so I can write a note here for you all. There is, if we're going to say alif itself, there's two types. there is maqsoor, which looks like this. Look in your mushaf, wal-duha. This is what it looks like. And sometimes in the Quran they write an alif like that over it. Maqsoor or mamdood. Med, from med, if you guys know tajweed, right? Mamdood means literally extended, stretched. Mamdood. My writing is terrible tonight. Mamdood. And that just looks like this. You're used to the mamdood. You're used to thinking of this as alif, but both of these are just as alif as the other. But that's a good question. What differentiates this from a ya is the dots. Put 2 dots down there, and it's a ya. No dots, no ya.
We don't have to write a small alif in the tummy of this yeah, right?
Good question. No. Very good question. Anybody else? Any question? Okay, good. It's a minor point, but it's a good one. It's a useful one. Okay, let's try to finish this chapter. Okay, this is I think the last or second to last exercise. Yaqra waqtu. Read and write. And I will always remind you all that the more that you write, the more that you will benefit. So you are going to simply read the sentence. Very, very straightforward. The things you're going to have to pay attention to, you're going to have to pay attention to merging the 2 words, alif lam. Are you going to pronounce the lam or not? Is there a moon letter or a sun letter after it? You're going to have to put the correct ending reflecting the grammatical case on the word. And then you're going to have to, we're going to be exposed, I think it looks like, to a bunch of, not a bunch, but some names of countries. So we'll learn some names of countries and you can just do your best. So number 1, first on my list here is Sister Masarrat. Could you please do number 1?
هذا الطبيب من إنجلترا. This doctor is from England.
Very good. Okay, number 2, Brother Asim.
ذهب حامد إلى فرنسا.
Good. What does that mean?
Hamid went to France.
Yeah, very good. Past tense. Excellent job. Notice we have jumla ismiya up here, jumla fi'liya down here. So here the 2 parts are mubtada khabar, right? Subject here, هذا الطبيب. Very poor dhamma. There's the khabar, min Inglaterra. And then here we have different type of sentence, different parts. This is a jumla fi'liya, begins with a verb. And so what we have is fi'l, the verb, fa'il, the doer of the verb, ila Fransa is the maf'ul, is the object, or sometimes, the prepositional phrase can be in place of an object. Great. Next, someone from the Sayyid family, number 3.
Oh, yes.
محمود مريض هو الآن في المستشفى.
Very good. MashaAllah. Translate that for us.
Mahmoud is a patient who's probably in the hospital.
Yes. MashaAllah. Good. Good, good. So Marid, you're right, is the result of him being excuse me, your translation of being a patient is automatic for a doctor, mashallah. Marid literally means sick, but the result of that is that he is a patient. So that's good. The only thing I heard is that marid has to have 2 dhammas at the end of it. Maridun.
She said that.
Alhamdulillah. And you're an excellent man for admitting that. So Mahmudun, Maridun, Mubtada khabar, all right, one of the first sentences that we learned, with a proper name as the mubtada and an adjective as the khabar. And so because it is nakira and it's a simple khabar, it has to have the sign of it being nakira, which is Dhamma 10. Al-an is, I'm very impressed that you knew to put a fatha on that. We haven't learned al-an yet. Al-an means now. It's a preposition of time. Dharf zaman, as they call it in Arabic. And it means now. Huwa al-ana, he right now, fil mustashfa, is in the hospital. So we're going to draw our line here. Huwa fil mustashfa, and huwa al-ana. Al-ana is just an extra. I'm not sure whether al-an would be part of the mubtada or the khabar. That's very interesting. I want to say it would be part of the mubtada because it doesn't make sense. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. Fil mustashfa. He is now in the hospital. Good. Number 4, Sister Syra.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question? Can al-an come anywhere? Can it only come here?
Oh, okay.
Always after the verb. Can it be in the end?
Yes, that's the benefit of a lot of things relating to time, is that you can pretty much tack them on anywhere. It could have been al-an huwa fil mustashfa. It could have been huwa al-ana fil mustashfa. It could be huwa fil mustashfa al-ana. Right? All of those are acceptable. Good. Good question. Sister Syra, number 4, please.
I don't know. All right. ذهب Abdullahi minal mania ila in Katara.
Good. Oh. I can't hear you.
Oh. Is everything coming through okay? In the chat box, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. That was very good. Can you translate that for us?
Hold on. Right. So you went? Oh.
Abdullah went from
Yeah.
Germany to England.
I think Abdullah went from Almani is what? Germany? Oh, from Germany to
England.
what's England?
Yes.
Oh, to England. Sorry. Abdullah went from Germany to England.
Good, mashallah. And check out, this is the one thing that's going to trip us up as English speakers. The jumla fi'liya is not a native construction to English, right? So notice how when you translate it, it's going to be the opposite word order, the opposite syntax. English is a subject, verb, object language. Arabic, at least in jumla fi'liya, verbal sentences, is verb, subject, object. So, dhahaba Abdullahi, we're translating in our head, Abdullah went, right? Which is, we couldn't possibly say went Abdullah. That would not be correct, right? But in Arabic, this is the correct way. Dhahaba Abdullahi min al-Mania ila Inglaterra. Very good. Brother Muhammad, is that Salman?
هذا الكتاب
Mhm.
لعيسى
Good.
وذلك الكتاب لموسى.
MashaAllah, very good. Excellent. So I'm going to spare Brother Muhammad the hard questions, and I'll just tell you that Isa is in the genitive case. Okay, it is majroor. It is. But it will not show that because it has an alif on the end. In this case, an alif maqsoor. Same thing with Musa. These names are both ending in a type of alif, and so they are fixed. They are mabni. We can say that they're in this position or that position grammatically, but they won't show it. They won't show it. So هذا الكتاب is the mubtada, لعيسى is the khabar, and it is majroor. Good. And the last one, Good question. Are Musa and Isa Arabic names? I want to say no, they're not. But I need to look into it a little bit further. Many of the prophets' names are not Arabic, right? And this actually has consequences in even the Quran with the grammar of some of these words. For example, Yusuf and Yunus are not Arabic names. They've, of course, because of usage, they've become Arabic, but however, they don't behave like Arabic names grammatically. Yusuf and Yunus will never have kasra. They're mamnu' min as-saf, right? We introduced this concept once very briefly. They won't take all of or they can't exist in all of the grammatical cases of Arabic because they are considered foreign names. Yes, of course, yeah. So that makes me want to say that Musa and Isa are the same, are similar. Whereas other names like Salih is an Arabic name, right? And obviously Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and so on and so forth. So you can tell there are hints whether a word is origin Arabic or origin from a different language, Nabatean or Syrian or Aramaic or Hebrew even, depending on how that word is declined in grammar. Ibrahim is not an Arabic word, right? So you'll never find Ibrahimi. It's Ibrahima, right? Israel, Ya Bani Israila, right? Very good. Okay, number 6, we're down to Saman. I hope I'm pronouncing that okay.
Saman, yes, correct. هذا المهندس من أمريكا.
Very good, and translate that for us.
This engineer is from America.
Yes, fantastic, very good. هذا المهندس is the mubtada, min أمريكا is the khabar, and that's pretty straightforward. Very good. Any questions before we start the next exercise? And I believe this is the final exercise. Okay, let's do it. So this is a final exercise reminding us of one of the other important parts of this lesson, which were the two words amam and khalf. Amam meaning in front of, and khalf meaning behind, right? And how they interact within a sentence and the words after it. It says, read, keeping in mind the rule pertaining to khalfa and amaama, which are mudaf. So they're telling you here that if you have either of these two words in a sentence, it's going to have a relationship of possession to what comes after it. We spent probably the most time out of everything we've done in this class on mudaf ilayh, right? Possessive construction. So these words are going to behave like mudaf and mudaf ilayh. They are mudaf, and whatever comes after them will be mudaf ilayh. So these pictures are very not clear. It's supposed to be a mouse in front of something and behind something, but anyway, it should be clear through the context. So we are down to the Sheikh family. Number 1, please.
السبورة أمام الطالب أمام الطالب وهي خلف المدرس.
Very good. Very good. So first of all, a sabura is a blackboard or even a whiteboard, right? A dry erase marker board. Any sort of board like that that's used for instruction, that's a saburatu.
So the blackboard is in front of the student, and she is behind the mudarrisi.
Who's she?
Oh, the blackboard maybe?
Yeah, exactly. See, this is Arabic. This is exactly how Arabic is and why it's really, really crucial to try to understand and keep track of. I'll say this. Once you get into more advanced Arabic reading, keeping track of the gendered nouns in the sentence is extremely important, because this is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have a sentence that's like a paragraph long, and there's only going to be one noun that's feminine in the whole paragraph. And then everything after that, it's going to be pronoun, 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 pronoun. And the author is going to expect you to remember that sabura is feminine and talib is masculine, right? So it's tricky. We don't really have to keep track of it like that in English, but here we do. So yes, as-saburatu amama talibi, the board, blackboard or otherwise, is in front of the student. وَهِيَ خَلْفَ الْمُدَرِّسِ, and it is, in this case, the sabura, behind the teacher. Very good. Moving on to Brother Zia, if you're there, number 2.
أين سيارة المدرس هي أمام المدرسة.
Fantastic. Translate that for us.
Where is the teacher's car? It is in front of the school.
MashaAllah. Right where it belongs. Good job. Yes, fantastic. Number 3, going back to the top of the list. And we're back at Sister Semin. If you're there. Sister Semin, number 3, if you are there. Sometimes actually every time I get back to the top, it rearranges the order of the participants. So no worries. Let's move on to Brother Asim, number 3.
أين بيت الإمام؟ بيت الإمام خلف المسجد.
Good. And translate.
Where is the house of the Imam? The house of the Imam is behind the masjid.
Fantastic. Very good. Again, remember with questions, we're going to reorder our sentences. So Baytul Imami is actually mubtada. Aina is the khabar. We're asking about the khabar. And this gets straightened out in the answer to the question. Baytul Imami, look, it's the same thing. Mubtada. The answer to that question is the khabar. Khalf al-masjidi, behind the masjid. Also, exactly where it should be. MashaAllah. Number 4. Let's go to the Sayyid family. We'll split the last 2 and
Okay. أين جلس حامد؟ حامدون, sorry, حامدون. جلسون خلف محمود.
Very good. Translate that for us.
Ahmed sitting, right? Sitting behind Mahmoud.
Good. Yes, that's correct. The only thing I'm going to pick is the tense of the verb. This is past tense. So we would say, where did Hamid sit? He sat. Jalasa khalfa Mahmoudin. He sat behind Mahmoud. So imagine Hamid and Mahmoud, or these guys, they come back from after class, they're talking about what happened in class. And where did Hamid sit? Hamid sat behind Mahmoud. Very good. And notice here how the order, it's just like example 3, except here we're dealing with a jumla fi'liya, right? We have, this is the end of it, and this is the front. We have the verb, subject, and the predicate. We're asking about the predicate, so it moves up. But the actual order, it gets straightened out in the answer. Fi'l or verb, fa'il or the subject in English grammar, and predicate mahmud. Or I'm sorry, that's a slight mistake. This is the entire thing is the predicate because the subject is implied because it's part of the question. Good. And Dr. Mohsin, bring us home with number 5.
ذهب عمار إلى المسجد وجلس أمام المحراب.
Fantastic. Very well pronounced. Can you translate that for us?
Ammar went to the masjid and sat behind the mihrab.
Fantastic. Very good. And that was one of the more complicated examples that we had, but well handled. It is a jumla fi'liya. Okay. ذهب is the verb. Ammarun is the subject, is the fa'il. Ila al-masjidi is what we would call a predicate. A prepositional phrase standing in place of the object. Wa jalasa, again, we don't need to repeat the subject. This is something very common in Arabic and all languages. We have the verb, it's still talking about the same subject, Ammar, so there's no need to repeat the subject, it's implied. Amam al-mihrabi is the object, which is a prepositional phrase. Anyone have any questions at all about anything in this lesson?
Ustad, just a few questions. Sorry. Are there any implications for viewing amaama or khalfa as prepositions versus a mudaf in that they kind of behave similarly?
That's a good question. Grammatically, there's no consequences because remember, going back to the idea of the genitive case, jarr, it covers 3 relationships. It covers the relationships between objects of time, place, and possession, right? So the concept of the grammatical case, it doesn't affect anything. Are there any other consequences to conceptualizing amam and khalf as mudaf as opposed to prepositions? Don't quote me on this, but my intuition would say that prepositions typically cannot change in and of themselves. Like min is fixed on min, whereas in English, what we say prepositions, but what we say mudaf can be anything. Okay, so min khalfi, so min khalfi, is it going to change? Right? So we have one class. So the question for those who didn't understand the question, this is a very good question, mashallah, is that remember the genitive case we said covers 3 relationships: time, place, and ownership or possession. Okay. Not everything translates from English to Arabic 100%. So in Arabic we have harf jarr. Okay. Oh boy, my Arabic writing is just chicken scratch tonight. Yes. Okay, so harf jarr, literally a letter or a particle that renders something genitive from jar majrur. Okay, we're talking here examples like min, what we learned earlier, what we learned first, ila, fi, these sorts of things. And then in Arabic, there's a different category that's called dharf. Okay. The problem is in English, harf jar and dharf are both covered in one category, which is called prepositions. So sometimes we get into trouble because we translate harf jar as a preposition, which it's true, it is. But then we also have what's called dharf, which is also really in English a preposition as well. What is a dharf? A dharf can be either time or place such as ba'd, which is after, or qabl, which means before. And then we have the one that we just learned, which was what these two, khalf and amaam. Okay. So I was asked, is there any difference? Is there any difference? Okay, okay, and forgive me, I'm making a leap in logic that I didn't explain. A dharf, its relationship to the word that comes after it is one of idafa, is one of possession. Okay, that's the link. That's the link. Whereas this, its relationship to what comes after it, it's called simply jarr wa majroor. It's called literally a preposition, and the thing it makes majroor. So in Arabic grammar, they're categorized as two different things. What is dharf? How would you translate it? I'm going to translate it as a preposition, but it's a different class of preposition from harf, jarr in Arabic. So is there a difference from conceptualizing khalfa and amaama as dharf, or we should say as dharf, whose relationship to the word coming after it is mudaf, mudaf ilay, as opposed to conceptualizing it as harf jarr, and the relationship between it and the word after it is jarr wa majroor. And my instinct, without looking at a book, is to say that this class of prepositions are declinable. You can have min ba'di, you can have min qabli, you can have min khalfi, you can have min amami. However, min ila fi never change. Right? Add li to this list too.
Jazakallah khair, that's helpful. Sorry, one more question. I think this is not as complex, inshallah. But with the mudaf ilayhi, if you came, let's say someone's walking and they came across a car and they said, hada sayyaratu mudarrisin. Like this is a car of a teacher, not the teacher. It just seems like the way the car looks, it must be a teacher's car.
Yes.
Maybe it's nice or whatever. Is this correct?
Yes, it is correct. We'll get into the rules for exceptions for when the mudaf ilay can be nakira. It can be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're thinking along those lines. So yes, it is permissible in Arabic. You can say it's like, this looks like a teacher's car. that beat up one we saw earlier in the lesson, right? So yes, it is. But it has rules. It has rules when you can do that. And it's a general exception. But we will get there. That's very good. Anyway. Okay. Any other questions? And if you didn't understand the dharf complete dharf conversation, I'm going to try to, with one of the students, make some slides to kind of elucidate the issue, inshallah. Any other questions?
Yes, in that number 4 there.
Yes.
Aina jalasa midun.
Yes.
Why can we not make it Aina jalasa hamidin or something like? Why is it ending in a?
Good. So the question is, why is hamid marfu' and not majroor? Correct.
Yes.
Okay. The default, first, there's two reasons. First of all, is that the default grammatical case of anything is marfu' until there is something to take it away from that default grammatical case. So we would ask, what is there in this sentence that would change hamid to put it into the genitive case? And keep in mind that the genitive case is not simply like it comes after any word. No, it specifically has to have a relationship of time, place, or possession. So is there anything in the sentence that would justify doing such a thing to hamid? If you really think about it, you could say aina is kind of asking about place, but it's not telling us anything about place, and it's not telling us anything about hamid in specific. That's what we're asking about. So really what we have is we don't have anything in a sentence to justify putting hamid in the genitive case. So even by default, we would have to leave it as a noun. As a noun, we would have to leave it in the nominative case. Then secondly, if we look a little bit closer, this is said in the chat, if we look a little bit closer and say, okay, what position, what grammatical position, or what part of speech or what part of the sentence is hamid fulfilling? What type of sentence is this? And this is why one of the first questions we learned to ask in this class is, what type of sentence is it? To understand what hamid is, we need to understand first what type of sentence it is. Once we understand what type of sentence it is, we understand the parts of that sentence. Once we understand the parts of that sentence, we can assign those parts to different words that we see. So this type of sentence is a verbal sentence. And a verbal sentence has three parts. It has the verb, it has the subject, and it has a predicate, either an object or a prepositional phrase. We have our verb, we have a question about the predicate, and so the only thing left is the subject. And the subject of a verb is always marfu'. And as the Sayyid said, if we said, oh, ho, ho, I like that. If we said the son of Hamid, aywa, let's look at that. Jalasa, jalasabnu, let's pronounce it right. Jalasabnu Hamidin. Yes, now we have justification to make this genitive, majroor, because ibnu is marfu', it is because it is the subject of the verb. However, this is entirely a possessive construction, which would make hamid majroor. Does that make sense? Tell me. Yes, you should. Okay.
Because I was trying to compare with number 3 there. I was like, why is that?
Yeah.
Imami. So by Tul Imami, the Imam's house.
Yes. The main reason is because they're two different types of sentences. Number 3 is a jumla ismiya. Number 4 is a jumla fi'liya. But that's good though. That's a very good question. Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, all we have is just a list of our new words. Al-Mustashfa, which is hospital. Almania, Germany. Inglaterra, which is England. Swissra, which is Switzerland. As-Sikinu, which is a knife. Firanza, which is France. Amam and Khalf. Amaama, meaning in front of. Khalfa, meaning behind. Next class, we will get to the new lesson. And this is actually very, very helpful because inshallah, we'll have slides prepared for the next class where we will talk about sifa wa mawsuf, or also known as na'at and man'ut. This has to do with adjectives, all about adjectives. How do they work in Arabic? What's the order? What's the grammar? And so on and so forth. Everybody's doing a fantastic job. Very pleased with everybody's progress and effort. May Allah bless you all and bless this class. And see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.